essentially gives them the power to withhold payment because of whatever reason they say. Now, they'll draw it up and it'll be nice and it'll be a good excuse. But ultimately, it says for breach of contract. So the other thing is the tax exemption. Let me show you this. So I'll pull this up on the screen. All right. Now, when you're doing state and local contracts, the majority of the time they're tax exempt. However, in some instances, and Maria will tell you this, we found out that they cannot be tax exempt. So we've had projects where the government, even though the government may be tax exempt, the particular contractor, the subcontractor, was not tax exempt. And so if you estimated that job or you bid that job without implying the taxes because you figure it was a state, local, or a federal project, and you can't get that tax exempt status, you have to eat that. So that's second thing I want you to look out for. Nikki said that's happening to her right now, but she hasn't signed a contract yet. Teddy says he just sent over a 99-page contract. So yeah, no, these are real things that are happening. And so I want to talk, I mean, again, we're here to talk about real stuff. I want to give people the information so they can make decisions. And so those are the couple things that I noticed. Now, those aren't even the 7 that we're getting into, right? So that's just like some stuff that happened that, again, I know is affecting people today, right now, in this particular pandemic and during these times. Now, let's get into some more technical things. And let me go in to, where are we at? Hold on. Where's my stuff? All right. So let's get into some technical stuff while we wait for people to hit the like button over there. The 7, these are the actual 7 subcontract clauses that I want people to be aware of. And again, if you're in construction and you have friends in construction, please, please, please do them a favor, do yourself a favor. Make sure to watch this video and pay attention and search for these clauses within your contract. Reasonably inferable. Ooh, anybody knows what that means? Reasonably inferable? Neither did I, right? Because you're like, what is reasonably inferable? That seems harmless, right? So reasonably inferable, a good example of that I have here is that says, when you are looking at construction drawings and it shows a door, all right, and you price to replace the door, it does not tell you that the door needs a frame. And so even though you know that you need a frame for the door, the drawings don't show a frame. And so in your contract, it says you are responsible to buy the frame, even though in the drawings, there is no frame. So that's called reasonably inferred, which means that if you're going to put a door in, you need a frame. Now, seems harmless, right? Well, it's a big problem because let's say it was a window and like we had a project with 300 window replacements, but it does not specify replace the frames. Obviously, the windows have frames. That doesn't mean we have to replace the frames. So that is something that can add up really, really, really quickly. And so what happens is when the design documents are so incomplete that the contractor has to begin drawing too many inferences, the result is that obviously we're now constructing on the fly with materials and methods and things like that, which causes us to lose money. So what it says is the best defense against that is the reasonably inferable clause is to review all your design documents, look for completeness and constructability. And so what we do is we make sure to ask those questions when we are pricing our jobs to primes. Now, this most of the things that we're going to talk about today applies when you're a subcontractor, not really a prime contractor. So most of the things that we're discussing today applies when you're a subcontractor. So as a subcontractor, you want to make sure that you point out things that you don't see, and though they may be obvious, they're not on the actual drawings or they're not written in the documents. And so you want to make sure, you don't want to think to yourself that, well, I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to get a change order later, because your contract may say this clause in it, and then guess what? the person, the contractor who's gave you the contract is going to say, nope, that's your fault. You should have known that the door needed a frame. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. All I'm saying is that these are the types of clauses that people will use against you in your negotiations. And then when you're trying to get like a change order, trying to get paid, they're going to go back to that clause in your contract. So again, what I'm doing here, oh, by the way, just so you know, they told me no because it wasn't directly to the government. Good job, Maria. Cliff won't find conflict like this anywhere. That's correct. I don't know what it is, but I just got my Black's Law Dictionary. Cool. So number 2, pay if paid clause. Pay if paid. Anybody heard that? Pay if paid. So what that says is that's actually in all of the websites. When you look at construction contract clauses, subcontract clauses, this is like number 1. This should put up number 1 on my list, but this is like the number 1 issue that you will find in your contracts. We'll say pay if paid, not pay when paid. You want pay when paid, but this says pay if paid. I actually, in my subcontract agreements, I write paid when paid because when the government pays me, I pay you and so forth. But this one is very specific. It says pay if paid. And what it says is that the clause tells the subcontractor that they may have done the work, paid for labor, paid for materials, but the general contractor has no legal obligation to pay you unless they get paid by the project owner. So how do you spot that? In your contract agreements, it usually says there's a condition precedent to the payment will activate a paid if paid clause. You want to look for that in your contract language. Now, the thing about it is most of the time, you don't really necessarily have control over this stuff. So most general contractors are pretty savvy and they will refuse to actually remove this contract. And so they'll end up just working with someone else because they know how powerful this is. However, for me, the way that I see this is that if you understand and you see these things in there, you can talk to the contractor, you can talk to the project manager. If you really have to take the project, then at least you can communicate that you're aware of these things. And so that will put people on edge that you've actually read the contract, you understand it, and so that you're not a person that they can actually push over. So these things show whether or not somebody wants to operate with you in good faith. All right. Number 3. Right to withhold payment. By the way, let me go back to number 2. So let me tell you guys, number 2. Hey, Quentin Swift, what's up, brother? Hey, Brian Amster, how are you? Nikki. All right. Let me go back to number 2 and tell you how dangerous this paid if paid clause is. In fact, you know what? Let me go to number 3 and then I'll give you the real life example. Right to withhold payment. The owner's right to withhold payment for work is there to protect the owner. Sure, makes sense. But also contractors should make sure that the contract language doesn't allow withholding of payment for anticipatory breach of the contract. So what that says is that this particular prime thinks that essentially gives them the power to withhold payment because of whatever reason they say. Now, they'll draw it up and it'll be nice and it'll be a good excuse. But ultimately, it says for breach of contract. So anything that you do that they deem like on the verge of breaching it, they have the right to withhold payment. So now, how does that apply in a real world sense? So I'll give you an actual scenario that happened to me a few years back where, and this is why, I say that, I showed the example about these buildings and what's going on is as a subcontractor, as a small subcontractor, right? So you get these buildings that are being built and all these people working on the projects. You get the developer, you got the owner, you got the developer, you got the prime, which is probably like a joint JV of some big prime. And then you got primes below them and then subs and subs of subs. And so you get down to the little guys. And us little guys are the ones actually out there putting the concrete, putting the steel, pouring the slab, doing all the work on there. And you can go to any town USA and find this on any projects.